Okay, you're back with Steph the Jeweler on Passing the Torch. A pro jeweler teaches. We are on our first step of making our flower brooch. As you can see, that's our design. I had said we are taking it from a significant fine jewelry piece that is a royal piece. That's what the inspiration is for. The customer wanted that, so I do what they want. I try to put my own spin on everything to be sure we're doing our own original design, but this is the composition that I think we like. It always is going to vary as we go, but this is our inspiration. So what I did first, we're going to be cutting out all the little pieces out of sterling silver. I had said on the last video that I save all my pieces of scrap just for this reason, because I love to reuse stuff. I'm very stingy, so I always try to utilize all my materials as best I can. So what I did after looking at this picture that I showed you guys, I actually took some kind of see-through paper and I went over each one and kind of traced out the elements. Okay, so I have individual elements drawn out onto a piece of paper. What's interesting about this, and the reason that I'm doing this, is because I want to cut out the pieces pretty specifically. I didn't really tell you about myself. I am a fine jeweler, and if you read my bio, I have been working over 30 years. I work on high-end things like wedding rings and things of that nature. This piece is sterling silver. It will have a lot of tourmalines in it, maybe a couple CZs just for a little white sparkle. But I love to work in sterling silver. It's very affordable, and you can make something really, I think, high-end looking for a reasonable price. So I did collaborate with my customer. As I am a retail jeweler and custom designer, do a lot of repair, the stuff you're going to be seeing on these videos is me actually working on customer pieces almost always. So that's kind of fun. You'll get to see what I'm doing for my business and maybe give you some ideas if you want to have your own jewelry business. I have always worked for myself. Not always. I've worked at other stores. I actually helped open a big store like 20 years ago. But because I am a mom, my kids are grown now, but when they were young, there was ball practice and therapy sessions. My youngest son with special needs, but he's doing great. He's in his 20s now and doing awesome. But, that was my responsibility to get him to all of these things, as my husband had the regular job with insurance. So I always tended to work for myself so that I had that flexibility. I worked from home mostly until about 2006. I opened my own retail studio. And if I could be there, I would. And if not, I would put a sign on the door and say when I would be back next. And now I do it strictly by appointment. People pop in once in a while, but mostly everybody knows I only work by appointment. So anyway, enough about me. So what we're going to do is we're going to use rubber cement. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. A lot of times I think people use it for photography, but we use it in the jewelry industry in a specific way, and I'll show you how. So I'm going to take an element like this flower petal here. I'm going to cut that piece out because I'm using smaller items here of silver, so I don't have like one big piece of sheet to use. So I'm going to cut out my flower, and you always want to be sure you have material around the outside of your design. You don't want to cut right up to it. That's what we're going to do with our jeweler's saw. We're going to cut around this, and we need to have material around it to work with. So the metal that I have in these smaller scraps, this is all 24 gauge, which is a nice lightweight but sturdy gauge of metal. Gauge is the thickness of your metal. But this is 18 gauge. It's nice and thick and heavy, and I want to do my flowers in this because I want to maybe do a little sculpting on the petals, and you need some material to do that with. So I have 2 flowers, so I'm going to get both of them ready. As you can see, I'll cut around them. I'm sorry if the camera angles aren't great. I'm new at YouTubing. Like I said, I'm a full-time retail jeweler. So I don't have the big jewelry store. I'm actually the craftsman. So I'm the one that does the work, but people come and see me. It's pretty cool. All right, so we've got our 2 flowers. Here are some leaves. I'm going to put those up there for now. And there's in here some more leaves and buds pieces. So what we're going to do is use our rubber cement. We're going to flip our pictures over. And we're going to take our rubber cement and we're going to coat lightly both sides. One side of the, sorry, didn't mean to be clear there. One side of the paper, always the back side of your design. And then one side of the sterling that we're going to use. You don't want it too thick, okay? But we're going to put it on there and then we're going to let it dry real quick. It evaporates and it dries. Sometimes I blow on it. Always be sure to put the lid back on your rubber cement tightly because mine's even getting a little dried out. Okay. Oops, I'm sorry. I knocked the camera there. Just grabbing some tweezers. So I'm waiting for this to dry. And then I'm going to place it on top of the metal there. And what it does is it makes a really strong bond, believe it or not, so that when you're cutting with your jeweler's saw, it'll go through very easily, but the paper will stay in place. So you can get really intricate with these designs. Now here's a jeweler's saw. I don't know if everybody can see that. It's a jeweler's saw. And it looks like other saws that you may see in a wood shop or something of that nature. I like this one because you see these wing nuts here? I just think they have a much tighter bond onto the, I'll show you this really small, can you see this really, really small saw blade? That's actually a saw blade. There's really fine teeth on the end there, and that's what cuts it. And you attach with your wing nuts here, and you have to have a lot of tension. You hear that? It's almost like a violin string or something. Yeah, that's what you want. You want a lot of tension so that when you push back on that saw blade, it's not wiggly. Okay? In other videos, I will teach you how to put things together. I will teach you all about tools and that nature. So I think our material is almost dry. So what I want to do is place my flowers onto my silver to be sure that there is enough room on the other side. I put my design over there on each side of the middle, so I have plenty of room, but I want to put it as near the edge as I can too to conserve my sterling silver. So if you can see, I've got the edge of the flower. Can you see this? I've got the edge of the flower near the edge of the metal. The other edge is here near the edge of the metal. So that way when I cut it out, there won't be a whole lot of waste. Now I do save all that metal though. It does not go bad. Then we use it for another application, like casting, for example, which is a whole different ball of wax, and you melt the metal in a little furnace. It's pretty cool, or with a torch. So I always save all my scraps just so that I can utilize them in different ways. All right, so there's my first flower, and here is my second flower. So I will put that one on there as well. Be sure that there's room on either side for cutting. Do you see? Can you see how that looks? I'm actually going to cut those guys out. So what I'm going to do, since this is a nice long piece, I am going to separate it. I'm actually going to probably separate both of these guys really quick with my jeweler's saw. Now, in other videos I've shown you, but I will show you again. You want to lubricate your saw blade, right? So I run what's called burr lube. It's like a lubricant. You can see this one has been used and used along the back edge lightly. Just one quick swipe. And then you flick it off the front of the teeth. What that does, it is a lubricant. It's just like a slimy wax. And what that does is it makes the saw blade last longer, because when you're cutting there's a lot of friction, as I'm sure you can imagine, and heat caused. And, that will wear down your blade. So this will make it last a little longer. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and, first of all, when you're sawing, you want to keep your hand, if you can see my hand, up and down. I'll show you. You want it to be straight up and down. You do not want to lean it this way. You do not want to lean it back. You want to keep your saw blade going straight in your hand. Do you see how I'm holding this? I'm not going like that or this. I'm holding it straight up and down. And I like to hold it loosely. Don't hold it tightly. Your hand will fall asleep. You put your thumb at the back here, and your fingers just lightly hold on. And you just barely hold it in your hand, and you barely press up and down. The teeth do the work for you. So here, if you want to watch, I know my hand's kind of in the way. I like to hold the metal on either side. This is a bench pen. This is a great big bench pen. I've been teased about it. You know who you are if you're watching this. But it works for my home. It works okay. So what I do is I like to hold a finger on either side of where I'm sawing because I don't want it to jergle around. I want it to stay firm. Is when things move is when you break your saw blade. So just for fun and for the ease of this, I'm going to go ahead and lightly saw through to make my piece shorter. Okay, you see how that easily that's separated? Isn't that amazing? Now here's the cool property about using the rubber cement. Everything just peels right off. Look at this. Do you see how that's just peeling right off? It peels off clean. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? So I peel the paper off because I want to have this sheet ready for the next time I need it. And look at this. You just rub your finger on it and the little pieces, all the rubber cement just rubs right off and leaves a perfectly clean surface for the next time I want to use this piece of metal. Isn't that cool? So there you go. Now I'm going to go ahead and start sawing. So again, I'm going to put just a little bit of burr lube on the back of my saw blade just to kind of keep it good and lubricated, and I'm going to start. And I always go kind of counterclockwise. I don't know why. That's just how I do it. Whatever works for you will be nice as well, okay? So here we go again. Straight up and down. I'm holding my arm up and down, using my fingers, holding it on either side of the metal. I know that might be a little hard for you to see. All right, can you see that? But if you watch, in the V of your bench pen is where a sheet like this will rest. So you have support on either side. Do you see that? And when I push down and I hold it, it also gives us support. Now you want to watch out for your finger. You want to keep it at the back side of this blade because let me tell you, it looks small, but it is mighty. And when you get a cut, it hurts. So please be careful when you're sawing. Now, sometimes I'll lift up on the metal when I've already started and just let the blade find its way. Because if you try to turn it when it's already going in one direction and it doesn't have any movement area, any slippage area, it will break. You'll go through a lot of saw blades. Don't worry about it. This is a 1/0, I believe, 1/0, whatever size. If you go the bigger the number, the thinner. So if it's like a 4, then it's a really thin blade. And for working on metal like this, especially being a beginner, I think a 1/0 would be a good size for you to start with. I'll give you a little added strength. So as you can see, I'm kind of going into this design. Can you see that? I'm going to go in and then I'm going to back it out just to show you as a beginner how to go in and